I hardly even know where to begin. But first of all, I want to just, to you, Tiombe, just express my gratitude to you for being honest with us, for your vulnerability, for speaking with love in your heart always. And that what I heard from this letter was that this was a love letter to us. And a love letter sometimes says things that are hard to hear for some of us, and yet they're important for us to hear and go on. And I so appreciate your sending us forward, calling us forward. You're being prophetic and calling us forward into being who we are meant to be, and coming into becoming that beloved community for everyone. So first, just want to thank you for sharing yourself with us in such a loving and beautiful way, and for that you love us so much that you were able to do that, and that we found this a safe space in which to do that. So thank you for that. And for this conversation, because there are so many of us, I would like to be able to call on you by so that you know when to speak. It's by you either raise your hand, or if you put your say that you want to just put hand in the chat box, and we can see that and know that you want to speak, and I will call on you. And if I can ask who's on this call that could help me with the chat, just in case I miss something, or if I miss someone's hand. Jane, would you?
Jane and I can do it.
Either Jane put her hand up to speak, or she's going to do it. Great, thank you. So, anyone would like to share, just please put your hand up and open the conversation with Tiombe, because she certainly said presented a beautiful package of things for us to think about, and food for thought for us to move along. So, the conversation is open. Oh, I see. Who did I see?
Betty Phillips had her hand up.
Okay, Betty, you have to unmute yourself. I should say that too. Remember to unmute yourself when you want to speak. So Betty, unmute yourself. We can't hear you. Betty, unmute yourself.
How about now?
There you go.
Okay. I first met Tiombe and her mother and grandmother at a coffee hour at St. Luke's. And it was such a pleasure for me to meet them and talk with them. I felt that I was in the right congregation when I saw colors besides myself. And I've always enjoyed Tiombe and her service to you people. I did not know her when she was a little girl. I only met the family when, I guess it was when Gary came there. And but they're such a treasure, and I hope many of you get to know, if you do not already know, her mother. And her grandmother came occasionally. She was the Baptist lady, apparently, and she was always a joy to talk to at the coffee hours. So we were welcoming, and you were welcoming me at the same time. Okay?
Thank you, Betty.
Thank you.
Somebody else?
Yes. My grandmother's still around. She's going to be 99 this December. So
and I'm going to be 98 in December. So
I know. Yes, she always says
in common.
she has more folks that are her age at St. Luke's than at her church. So
that's why I feel comfortable there.
Julie, I saw your hand up. Remember to unmute yourself.
I did.
Okay.
Tiombe and Eric, first of all, you are both so incredible, and I've been so blessed to be at the airport with our very small rush on the airport, welcoming Eric back to Los Angeles, and just shared your joy and your love story. But Tiombe, you just took us deep in the heart today, and your words were so needed. And I hope that we can honor your love for this community by going forward and doing what we need to do and opening our lives to what life really needs to be like. So gracious and so loving. And you just know that I love both of you deeply from my heart.
thank you.
Thank you.
We feel it. Love you back.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Well, Anne Burdette.
Well, Tiombe, I had to stop my video, as I often do during these services, because your words and your sincerity and your loving kindness to us and your persistence in staying with us is such a gift. And I looked at that little picture of you as a baby with your kitty. And I saw my granddaughter, Imani, and thought about your journey and your faith and how I, as a grandmother, can offer that understanding and that perception to my family as we navigate these times. I know that Imani is named the Imani for faith because that's what we chose. And I have often wanted to ask you about your name. And, you know, it's not a name that I hear very often. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your name.
Yes. So Tiombe is West African. My mom and my dad decided they wanted me to have a name that represented my African ancestry, but also on my dad's side, he's Canadian, immigrated here, but and so I had a French Canadian name. My second name, Chantal, and Tiombe is West African. I've heard from a couple different folks, different tribal dialects. Some have said it is from a dialect that it actually means shy, and that's the name book that they got it out of, said it meant shy. And I always tell people, like, my name's Tiombe, it means shy, but I'm not. So that's really the truth. And I did hear from, when we were doing a lot of the work with Gaia, some of the wonderful Malawian folks that we were able to work with told us that it actually is very close to a word that means praise in their dialect. So that was really lovely to find out as well. So yeah, and it's, you know, it's a journey though, because I think at times, because of really being teased and especially having teachers and other adults in my life who would swear they just couldn't say it, or, you know, and I never used a nickname. So all of you know me, that I don't really use a nickname. I had a couple family members that would call me T, and which I don't mind, but it was a journey, and I think it really, now it's one of the things I love the most. I mean, I named my company just Tiombe, so Tiombe MFT, that's it, you know. So it's something that I feel immense pride in, and I'm really glad that my parents decided to make sure I had something that, you know, as many of us now, we can more so with DNA searches, but so many of us that are African Americans don't have that ability to directly connect to ancestry on the continent. So yeah, thanks for that question, Anne.
I just want to say that Imani is Imani Jane.
Aw, so sweet.
Because my daughter said, well, you know, her middle name is Welsh, it's a Jane, and Tiombe, Imani is variously Swahili or sometimes Arabic. But yeah, I think that's a great melding right there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Judy, I see Judy.
Hit the mute button.
Unmute Judy.
Oh, yes, okay, here we go.
You're good. We can hear you.
I'm good, okay. Am I okay? Am I unmuted now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm so bad at the chat. I ended up sending this directly to Tiombe, but I wanted to send it to everybody. When Tiombe said that these last, this series of confronting racism, or whatever we're calling it, that just felt like what church is supposed to be, I just had to share that Byron and I do also. We have been enchanted and challenged and loved every minute of every service in the last 7 or 8 weeks, wherever we are. And I didn't want just Tiombe to hear that. I was just struck by everything she said. It's something we just have to hear, because we don't know. If we are not Black people, we do not know. And I so appreciate her talk about the exhaustion. And I think Marquita might have said it, Black grief, in another room we were in. And yet, as white people, we have to hear it over and over and over in the Wednesday night My Space thing. people are starting to go, oh, that bad, oh, that much. And so I just feel this tension of white people needing to hear it and hear it and hear it, and yet the agony for Black people of having to say it and say it and say it. So today was just, I just so appreciate it, Tiombe. And one thing, I don't know how many of you know Tiombe's professional life, but when I taught adolescent psychology at Cal State Long Beach, she came every single semester and talked to my students about sexual assault and the need to talk to adolescents about sexual assault. And she had my entire class of 50 students up there lined up, and she would stay there till midnight if necessary and give them her home email. And so the work that our Tiombe does, in addition to the work she does for us at St. Luke's, is she spreads our gospel everywhere. And I just can't thank you enough, Tiombe. And I meant to do it publicly, but I hit the wrong button. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judy. I appreciate that. And I loved our times being able to collaborate and come to each other's classrooms, and yeah.
It's
When
good.
people ask me, what does Tiombe do for work? I like how I could just go on for hours and hours talking about it, because it's not just one thing. It's like amazing work all over the
Eric. You name it, Tiombe will be there helping it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, there was a hand there. I missed it. Who was it?
Arlene has had her hand up and to put in the chat.
Arlene and Jeanette.
Thank you. Arlene.
Excuse me. I wanted to thank you, Tiombe, from the heart, and how you had to struggle to get through that at times. And as Judy mentioned, I mentioned, another person mentioned, you mentioned the word exhaustion. This whole 6 months has been exhausting from a racial injustice point of view for Black people, people of color. And it's hard to express how exhausting it is. But I also wanted to ask you to expound on the time when you went to the retreat to work on the St. Luke's mission statement. I think I had just started St. Luke's, and I remember that, but tell us about the process on how you had to struggle to get some of those key words into our mission statement.
Sure, and thank you, Arlene. Yeah, I did. I had hoped. I'll say first that, you know, it's as beautiful. It's been that tension of as beautiful as these weeks have been in deconstructing racism and really putting that at the forefront. It's also an additional piece of the exhaustion to be sort of like, you know, in some ways talked about, and then in other ways have to feel like we're still in that struggle. So thank you for, you know, just, I think it's important for us to validate each other in those feelings that we're having. Yeah, when we wrote the mission statement, and I'm really open to other folks, you know, chiming in that were there at the time. What we did is we did actually a day-long retreat because we knew it was going to be a long conversation. So I think it was Vestry plus some others, and we came together and met actually at a different location. I think it was another meeting space, just to have that process. And I think, you know, we had been, you know, really pushing and looking at how we could balance in the vestry the things that had always taken center stage around, you know, worship and music and liturgy, and really thinking more. We had expanded the shower program, and we were really looking at how, you know, gotten the first grant for the showers and all of that. And so as we went to write the mission statement, really wanting to make something short enough, but to cue folks as to what would make, at that time, I think we were having many, many more, LGBTIQ folks, gender diverse folks who were coming through our doors and wanting to make sure that that embodied all of what we are and wanted to be. And so, myself being already in a job where we use lots of buzzwords, I think it was important for us to settle on some words that we thought were more universally, could define what we wanted. And I think words like, inclusive and multicultural, we had to have long discussions about what that meant, and almost like what it was promising. And I think a lot of folks were like, well, if we just say welcoming, right, that people will know what we mean. And I think those of us who felt very strongly about making sure that there was something that really spoke to, whether it was, race, class, gender, sexual orientation, immigration status, mental health status, like no matter what those things were, that someone might find something in that statement, especially when it talked about then continuing. And I think people got more on board with using multicultural and inclusive when we talked about that we were pursuing something, right? That maybe we hadn't made it there, but that we could pursue it. And I think that was, the struggle was that folks felt, when people, when you feel comfortable and when you've always felt included, that sense of like, well, why do we need to name it? Everybody just knows. And I think that was the tension back and forth in the conversation about it. And eventually, I think because those of us who were sharing about, no, it needs to be right there, it needs to be said, that we were able to, as many times has to be the case, we have to leverage our own experiences and pain to get folks to recognize that it's not everyone's experience of a community isn't the same. So I hope that illuminates a little bit. Arlene, does that get to your question?
Was it Jeanette that was next? Jeanette.
Yep. Tiombe, first, thank you for your friendship. It was so lovely to be able to see you and hear you. And also, thank you for your leadership, your lay leadership. And the girls were sitting here off camera listening to you, and Sydney was like, wait, she was the first Black woman verger? Like, it just blew her mind because she sees you as a role model, and that's normal for her. So thank you for that. And my question to you is, as we start to be able to imagine a time when we are back together, what portions of our service, especially as we've kind of had a different experience here on Zoom, what portions of our service do you think we need to carry forward to continue on our journey of being a more inclusive and multicultural community?
Wow. Well, thank you right back. And it's been so lovely. I think truly one of the things that was a wonderful bridge through, these, especially these last 20 years, was having what we first called the young adults. And it's really so incredible to see so many of us and how much that really led to a sense of connection for many of us. So I really appreciate that, and loving to see, of course, your two girls grow from seeing them, knowing them in your tummy. So it's, gosh, that's a really big question. But I think what I would say is that is something that I think I referred to it in the sermon as like that moving forward would look like trying to center folks who have been made most vulnerable, and really being thoughtful and purposeful about maybe conversations that we have and ways that we can be inviting, right? And really allow people to opt in and share what has touched them during this time. I think there's been so many things that have been shifted and I know that have just caught me and spoken to me, spoken to my spirit in different ways. And I think there's a really strong piece that is about imagery and representation and music styles. And oh my goodness, are we just, you know, continually blessed by our music program. Cookie is, you know, just, and all of our section leaders, our singers. So I think, you know, our musicians, and I think doing more of what we've done, which is incorporate, I mean, like, you know, George's cello piece today, those are the things that are like celebrating that we have this wealth of and beauty within our community. And I think, you know, I'm very honored, and I was sincerely very scared about sharing in this way today. But I also think that there's something about, you know, really investing together. And so I'm hoping that we can just have more conversations, that I wouldn't be the one to say, I could tell you what Tiombe would need in that, you know, in that season. And I'm happy to share that in terms of just, you know, I think it is going to be continuing to integrate some of the things we've seen across this time. But I also think it's going to be making sure that, you know, all or as many, you know, voices and things that touch everyone's spirit are included. And that's what makes, you know, our community wonderful, is that we could share that with one another. So I hope that, yeah, thank you, Jeanette.
More hands. Was that Kara? Did you have your hand up? No? You got to be careful. You just do this and I think you've got your hand up. Cecelia.
Obviously, I just want to thank you as well. And one of the things that I was thinking about with your sermon, following on the Black National Anthem and following on comments by others, I had an experience in Ghana with a team of UCI folks in 2010. Some of us were white, a lot of us were Black, and some of us were, a few were Latinx. And we all went to Ghana, faculty, students, et cetera. And our students, our dance students, worked with the Ghanaian dance ensemble, and it was amazing, our jazz students. But there was a lot of racial tension around our visit to the slave fortresses. And that was because one of my colleagues in history wanted to take the Black students separately. And some of my white colleagues and staff couldn't understand that and thought that was divisive. And I was supposed to be the leader for some reason, the temporary leader, and moderate this. And I didn't completely understand the logic of my Black colleague, but as a white person, I supported her. But I remember that one of the things she did was she suggested that we all stand on the beach and pour libations and pray together and take turns. And that was one of the most powerful experiences I've ever had in my life. But I also know how exhausted she was and of having to go through this. And then to see the dungeons and smell the dungeons and hear the air and see the ocean and think of the blood shed was beyond words. And one of the things that I heard in your sermon today was something that I've often thought of since, but you put it in very stark terms, is that who is the we talk about when we're white folks, right? And in our church, to be beloved, to be the beloved community, I think that listening to you and listening to Arlene's exhaustion, listening to Michael's words, Angeles' words, those of us who were white, I think really need to take that on and realize that we have in fact set the tone. And so I just want to thank you.
Thank you very much, Cecelia. Thank you for that powerful story too. It's, yeah, I mean, I would have to say, if I was on that trip, it would be my wish that it would be, you know, really a space where, and I think that's the hard thing is, you know, in whatever way that we've, you know, been centered, you know, in points where we've been the center of things, the voice that gets, you know, seen as, you know, the accurate historian, or the one who is, you know, looked to provide, you know, guidelines. It's really difficult sometimes to recognize that other folks' lived experience matters. And so I really appreciate you telling that story, and it does, it is, I think, important, even more so that we're aware of it, right? Just like we specifically put words in the mission statement, and it was like, no, we do have to state this, that assumption, right? Assumptions can be rather dangerous in a community that is needing to recognize that there's you know, more than one way that people are navigating a community and their own history and historical traumas. And so yeah, thank you.
I have to tell you, this is Byron. I have to tell you that I actually got up and left afterwards because I wanted to keep your comments in my mind without being interference of things afterwards, you know. So it's it's like a little like eating a really delicious meal and not wanting dessert because you want to keep the meal in your mind. It was wonderful.
Thank you, Byron.
Tell them that surgery ever.
Anybody else have a hand up that I can't see? Oh, Hillary. Hillary, and
Just briefly, thank you so much, Tiombe. Whoa, but strength and courage. You mentioned the Gaia project. Could you briefly explain Gaia being Earth, and we have to think so holistically? Could you please just comment briefly on that?
Oh, yes, well, it was something that I was just honored to work on. Julie Von Pels was a part of that as well, and I hope I'm not, and Gaia stands for actually the Global AIDS Interfaith Alliance. And it was something started in our Bay Area churches, and then spread to a ministry that specifically looked at how HIV/AIDS, the orphanages, the impact of women's social and economic disempowerment led to the harms and obviously the spread of that disease. And so Gaia, and jump in here, Julie, if you have more, what we did is many Episcopal churches followed suit with the ministries that had started in the Bay Area and spread across congregations that did their own sort of fundraising arm for the Global AIDS Interfaith Alliance. So for a long time, we had silent auctions, and we sold single origin, ethically raised chocolate from Africa. We did personalized Christmas ornaments and almost anything that we could have the St. Luke's community enjoy and participate with us to continue to give Gaia our funds. And they are still running, and what they do is they also empower, specifically, the reason why we got in connection with them is they specifically empower folks on the ground. This isn't about bringing in, right, outside folks, non-African folks to Malawi. This is about empowering mostly the young women who go to nursing school, who go through educational schools there and are able to bring back that information and education and health to their communities. So that's Gaia. And Julie, please.
And a lot of it was from All Saints Pasadena, who was really involved in it. And Bill Rankin, who started this, was actually Gary Cummins, was it his professor? When he was in seminary. And so that's how we got involved, but it's still going strong. And A lot of our money went to the schools, but also to the medical teams. And in Malawi, we bought 2 ambulances, and the ambulances were a stretcher that was pulled behind a bicycle. That many of us would have thought, oh my God, that's the paramedics. But I mean, for them, it was true support. So, and St. Luke's was very involved, and it was good to do it with the Tiombe. We had some good experiences.
Yes.
Bill,
we did, and we every Black History luncheon, whatever money we raised, we donated all of the money to Gaia.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's Joni.
Enid Witter would have been part of those lunches, and that's when we would have had the ginger beer.
Yes.
Yes.
Enid's ginger beer was always a big part of that luncheon. It was great.
I know.
And your
And the
Gran with
plantains.
her cabbage and the way that she made the cabbage. I still haven't mastered it.
It was
Yes,
an
we all
awesome
That's
experience.
Tiombe's mother.
So we have time for one more question before we need to end. And I know Bill has had his hand up.
Yeah, Bill, and then also Mike Newton, if maybe it's a short question.
Yeah.
Oh, me? Well, you know, I added my admiration for your comments, like many others have eloquently done. But you mentioned Dwayne Custer, and Dwayne was the one who came to me and invited me to be a verger. And when you became a verger, to my lacking, I didn't really think about the fact that you were a woman and Black. I did know what a beautiful young lady you were. I shouldn't put that in the past tense. You are still a beautiful lady. So thank you for your service in the small cadre of vergers, and also as a former senior warden. Thanks for all you do. Love you.
And then Bill Weber, do you have a quick comment that you want to make? Less than a minute?
I don't think your sound is connected, Bill. Can you check your sound? We can't hear you.
No, we still can't hear you, Bill.
Ask him to press the space bar. Sometimes that helps.
Can you press the space bar, Bill, and see?
Or type it in chat, Bill.
Just give it up.
I know we have to go to the community service.
Technology, the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike, for your comments. It's really been a pleasure when I've been able to, in whatever way I've been able to serve. So, yeah.
Well, Bill just posted that he just wants us to post your talk.
Yes.
Your sermon gets posted.
It will be made available. I know that it'll go out, and I know because I know Joni had contacted me about that too, and I'm happy to share it. Yes.
And just so everybody knows, every sermon that has been given is on our website. So Tiombe's will be there, and it will also be sent out during the week. So keep an eye out for it.
Great. Wonderful. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tiombe. My heart just is full, and it's just, you've given us so much, and I know that this is just the beginning of more conversations, and I really thank you for really setting the stage and the tone for our future conversations.
Thank you, Kay. Thank you all, truly, for everyone who stayed for this, and just for being such an incredible community that I adore, and that I'm so honored to be a part of. So thank you all for all that you do. Yes.
Thank you 100 times.
Thank you. Zoom hands.
Right. Yes.
See you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.